Welcome to the show, Steve. I am so excited to have you. I've had a chance to get to know you over time, and I know that you're the most grounded, sharp, intelligent, and a genuinely kind person. Every time I've spoken to you, I've had a new idea, and you're refreshingly authentic. So I think that those are very good qualities you imbibe. And I'm so excited to have you here, especially because the product you have built is in pre-construction, and I work in pre-construction too. So this is a very personal cause, and I'm sure I'm gonna get great things from this chat that we have. So Steve Dell'Orto, welcome. For those who don't know you and those who don't know Concentric, how would you describe Concentric? What does it do?
It's an AI first pre-construction platform. So if you think about the entirety of the pre-construction phase, it starts with an idea and goes all the way to where you're physically building the project that you're planning and budgeting and designing in this pre-construction phase. And a lot of people associate the term pre-construction with just the builder, but it really is the name of the phase where the owner of the project, the other key stakeholders being the design team, the architect, all of the engineers, and the builder, and even some of the trade partners that come forward and help actively in that pre-construction phase. And there's a number of other stakeholders, but if you think about those three critical stakeholders in this process, they have to come together and plan all aspects of the project, not just the estimating and the cost side. And it's not just designing a building, it's bringing all that together with time and schedule in mind, the logistics, the regulatory requirements, whether it's permitting, sustainability commitments, you name it. All of that has to be worked through as a team during this pre-construction phase. So what we're building is a comprehensive platform and a place that all of those stakeholders can come in and really truly collaborate, but draw upon data that can be shared among the team. We've taken what I think of as the Stone Age, the pen, paper, and Excel. Excel's in there. That's Stone Age stuff. And taken, what people are creating all of these ad hoc spreadsheets to do across the 40 or so pre-construction workflows or facets of work, and digitizing the best of the best practices to address those, but also tie it all together. So you have a very comprehensive, integrated approach to pre-construction, addressing communication needs, visualization, all of that. But at the same time, one project after another, what everybody's doing is really driving it to be smarter and more enriched for the next project and the project after that. So it's this incredibly growing, powerful knowledge base. And now, the second part of our plan, which is what we really embarked on this time last year, was the platform had always intended to take this data and really leverage AI. As an agentic AI strategy is what we really are focused on, is how do we leverage that data and do much more powerful things with that data for our user to be able to do, as well as save everybody a lot of time. I think our industry has a lot of challenges, and I saw that firsthand in my career as a builder. And one of the big challenges is resources, and we never have enough time, yet there's so much out there that needs to be built. And so you have this huge imbalance, and it's getting worse. So part of the other strategy, besides just solving the pre-construction working needs, is to solve the great inefficiencies that we're all under, and do that where Concentric is a force multiplier. How do we take a pre-construction professional, pre-construction manager, estimator, any role, and give them superpowers so they can become really the power of 10? And we're well on our way. It's quite exciting.
That's a lot that you're trying to put together. So what I'm hearing is, let's start with estimating. So there are these estimates that Precon creates. You're taking those, and then any changes that happen on top of it during the whole Precon process, whether it's value engineering, whether it's like options that owners want to see, You also spoke about schedule, and all of that is happening in one place. So anything that changes in the estimate is reflected in your platform as it changes, and everyone has the access to see how their decisions are changing the estimate, like, I mean, the bottom line, the baseline price. Is that right?
I mean, that's a part of it. I mean, don't limit the thinking around everything being related to the estimate. And I think
Okay.
that's where a lot of people, they automatically think pre-construction consists of two things: estimating and bidding the work to the subs. And that couldn't be further from the truth, because there are 40 things that people are doing. And I really, really try to emphasize that, because it would be underestimating or underappreciating all the work that goes on by the pre-construction teams to properly plan the job. So take time, for instance. We built a logic CPM scheduling solution that's integral to our platform, because everybody thinks of scheduling a job, to create the 10,000 activity construction schedule in P6. Well, you really um, improve your chances of starting the project on time, or maybe even earlier than expected, if you put a little time and energy in scheduling the steps of pre-con. How
That's
many
what I
times have we been at the table where we're designing and we're estimating and we're just doing all these things, and somebody goes, "Hey, we got to go get a permit," and then we come back and the news from the agency is, "Well, that's going to be 6 weeks or 6 months," and everybody's like, "Oh my God, that throws off our plan." No, you never had a plan, because if you had a plan, you would have already figured out that you needed to factor the 6 weeks or 6 months for that permit. That's a critical piece to planning a job, just as much as the estimate is itself. That's just one of almost an infinite number of examples of these challenges and things that crop up that could be avoided and mitigated in the first place, if we really had good tools and platforms like Concentric that really help lay out the steps and all the 40 things you should be doing to more comprehensively plan the job for success.
And what I really like is also the analytics piece. So once all this is done, how, like, it's so important that the owner, the designers, everyone sees what you're trying to show them. Like, the analytics piece is so much more important than just, giving them changes on like PDF papers. Like, hey, this is what changed. But then when they see, like, oh, these are the decisions that impacted those certain changes, like, I think the analytics piece is so important. And you spoke about agentic AI on top of that. That really blows my mind, because does that mean you need fewer estimators to do what was being done before? Like,
Well, or flip that around, because the reality is we don't have enough. We don't have enough estimators. We don't have enough pre-construction managers. We don't have enough VDC managers, superintendents. We don't have enough of everything to build all that is out there that needs to be built. I can approach this, in any number of ways, but if you come at it from the macro level, we have population growth where by 2040, our population in the US is going to grow by 25%. I mean, that's a massive amount of people. And when you think about that, that means more schools, more housing, wider highways, air, everything. So that's demand. Well, that demand is rapidly increasing. At the same time, the head count and the experience level in our industry continues to plummet. And so you have this ever widening gap. I'm contorting
oh,
myself.
that's true. That's true.
You have this ever widening gap. So this is not about being able to do the work you have with fewer estimators. It's about actually keeping up with the work that you have today, for which you don't have enough estimators. So now you can force multiply that a little bit, so that way you can even that score and then some. The people that you have uh, can do more, and not working 24 hours a day, actually maybe even working less. because they're working more efficiently and they have these super powerful tools. It just changes the entire equation, and that's the only way to solve this talent issue. And so anything we can do to think about, I mean, you do this for a living. How you took, observed yourself. Say you had this out of body experience and you could just watch Sampada do what you do. You're going to watch yourself probably do in a given day 40% of the time expended doing redundant work, transferring data in a very manual way, calling people, looking for the most current information because you're not sure that what you have is the right version, but you have no way of knowing until you check with them. All of the above. You are working at such a gross inefficiency rate that we can solve that. We can take all of those menial tasks off your plate and free you up to do really the cool thinking work and the supervisory work and just managing the process as opposed to being the actual data entry person. So it's about giving you back bandwidth is what it's really all about.
That's a really good perspective you've shared with me because I often hear, people when there is so much noise around AI, I often hear people saying, "Oh, this is going to replace our jobs." But to think about this, there's more work than there are jobs, and so we need to build systems that can then, do the jobs that we have. So I think that's a very good perspective. And also redundancies. I think I echo with you so much because I fall into that category where I hate redundant work so much. I always try to make everything I work on so much more efficient, fewer clicks, fewer, so I completely echo with you on that sentiment.
Yeah.
But going back, I wanted to really hear this perspective from you. You've spent 26 years in the construction industry. You actually worked with one of the largest general contractors in the country. What was it that made you feel like you had to jump ships and start something, do something now? What was that? What was it that drove you into this? And how did you really get here?
I mean, I think I've always been an entrepreneur at heart. I think that's why I was successful at the company I worked for because I led a major part of the growth of the company, particularly out west. And I had the good fortune of, really building business units from almost scratch. And my approach with, the folks that worked with me was, I literally told them because we're in the Bay Area and everything you hear about for the last 2 decades is all about startups and all of that. But I just said, hey, think of us like a startup but with the safety net of a big company behind us. Let's see what we can do to create something big out of nothing. And we did just that. But that for me, while entrepreneurial, probably wasn't entrepreneurial enough because I had the safety net.
Hmm.
So, part of me was not afraid to do it, but part of me was motivated to do it because of the sheer, I don't want to sound over dramatic, but the pain and agony of the status quo was absolutely driving me nuts. We grew responsibly, but in a great way. What did we do? We more or less 10x'd, our top line revenue. We 10x'd on headcount. We grew substantially, but we grew our margin by 44%. I mean, that's incredibly hard to do in our industry. And it took so much effort to do that, but it wasn't scalable. So without having a little bit more infrastructure in the areas we needed infrastructure, it was really technology. And the frustration points I got was watching my team. It wasn't about, I mean, it was plenty of my own personal pain that I was feeling, but I was watching the pain that my teams were having to endure. Again, doing all of that, grossly inefficient work, the triple entry, the static PDFs, and struggling to communicate with a client because they had an ugly, estimating spreadsheet. They had no way of communicating it in different, ways, more dynamically, etc. I just said, I can't do this for 20 years. I got 20 plus years left in my career. I cannot do it this way anymore. This is like banging my head against a wall. But I also knew how I could fix it. And I had a keen focus on pre construction
Mhm.
because having been in operations as a project manager and a project executive, VP of operations, all that stuff, I always was very actively involved in the bid room, buying out the work, doing the subcontractor, procurement process, everything under the sun. I knew that pre-con is where the success of the project is largely determined before it even breaks ground. So if you set the table for success, like I always like to say, in pre-con well enough, then the construction phase goes a heck of a lot more smoothly. Your client is going to be far happier because they're getting a certainty of outcome. That's far better than what they typically experience, and everybody's winning. But you have to invest the time and energy in pre-con, and that's hard to do when your team is working with ad hoc spreadsheets and maybe they have a point solution here that talks to nothing. It's just incredibly inefficient. So my vision was, why can't we have a platform that is focused specifically for all the unique needs for pre-con, just like the project management teams have had the benefit of platforms for the last 2 decades. Nobody would envision doing submittal logs and managing the RFI process in spreadsheets like I used to have to do when I started my career. Nobody would ever think about doing that independently. They just naturally gravitate towards a platform. Well,
Mhm.
the same for Precon, and that's what we're delivering to the industry at Concentric.
That's incredible. I mean, there was always, I mean, I still see the advantage of having like a Procore or ACC that actually puts everything together in one place. But we are not doing that in Precon. And unfortunately, Precon is like siloed into five, six different software that then we just go from hop from one to the other and keep, manually entering these parts and pieces. So that's a very big, beautiful vision that you had and which you rightfully executed also. But see, what was harder? Like, was it harder to be a director of pre-construction, or is it harder being like a founder of a company that you had to start from scratch?
Yeah, I was never really the director of pre-construction. I was ultimately, the executive officer that was responsible for everything. So I was responsible to make sure that the jobs that we won that were being managed in construction and were achieving the goals of the owner, the goals that we set out for ourselves, etc., just as much as I was responsible for getting the work in the first place and making sure that the projects got planned. But I think in the industry, and it's still to this day, the predominant focus on where and how to succeed is everybody wants to drill in and make sure that the projects that are under construction are run well. And that's absolutely necessary. But what happens is the the front end of the job, I think, is far less understood on how to do it than most people. And that's where I invested a lot of time and energy to make sure that I understood it, even though I was maybe more operationally oriented in the first part of my career. But I did focus more on um, finding the right projects to get involved in, that where we could add value and we could have a great relationship with the stakeholders and really provide value. But then once you have the job, you need to make sure it's being planned well so that the construction end goes smoothly. But I was responsible for it all. So when you have to go home at night and you're responsible for $2 billion worth of work every year and continuing to maintain or grow the company to do as much every year, if not more, it's an incredible responsibility, and you learn quickly to figure out where your company and your team where they're strong, and so then you can say, all right, we're we're we got this generally dialed in, and I can just keep tabs on that. But where most companies um, aren't as say strong, or at least don't have the information and the quite honestly the SOPs in place to ensure that it's going well and consistently is pre-con. So I just naturally ran to that and made sure that I was investing in the best talent. I was giving them all the tools that were available to allow them to do the very best at the projects. And my commitment to them was also to make sure that we were bringing in good deals, to make sure that we were working on the right projects with the right goals. So yeah, responsible for it all, but a passion of mine was pre-com for sure.
That's beautiful. So you also started Built by Builders.
Mhm.
I want to know more about what it is and what's your role in it.
Well, I founded it, and I came at it from the perspective of as I left being a GC and I moved into being a startup. You start with nothing. You start with an idea, and there's an infinite number of challenges involved in making that successful. Coupled with the industry has always been very good to me, and obviously I'm looking for ways to give back. And so my story resonated with a lot of the customers that we have on today, meaning I think a lot of people, when they're looking for a solution, let's just say technology, but it doesn't always have to be technology. But if they're looking for a solution, our industry especially, a builder is going to trust and expect that another builder that's providing that solution gets it. You know, I've walked in their shoes. Um, you know, uh, I can help. I understand the nuance of things. You just understand how things go in the industry. And you take pre-construction is incredibly complex. It's nonlinear. It's very iterative, and it can go in any direction. Construction tends to be far more linear and kind of easier to figure out, but pre-con on a whole is extremely complicated. And so I think it really resonated. And because I found that the people looking to buy a solution had a great deal of interest and more confidence in Concentric because it's being built by a builder and not an outsider, technology person that's just coming in to solve construction's problems. They take great comfort in that, and they know that our product is going to be a bullseye as opposed to a dart that's missing the board altogether. And so that applies to a number of companies that I saw out there that I'd gotten to know through a little bit of an informal founder network. And I just said, hey, why don't we? I'm creating this Built by Builders network, and I'd love to have, there was 7 others that I started with. We all kind of joined forces to really represent our industry and be a resource to the industry. And whether it's change orders or safety or certified payroll solutions or contract review, you name it, there's many different facets that people can come look for a solution from a trusted group of fellow builders or advice or anything, and we're there. And we just added 3 new members focusing on other aspects of the industry. So it's just my way of giving back and providing a resource to the folks out there that are looking intently for solutions.
So how do you find these companies that could be part of Built, or how could they find you rather?
We have a whole dedicated website. It's builtbybuilders.com. If they go to that website, you can see it's like shopping. You can see what's available, and you can click into any one of our websites through the Built by Builders Network website, and get in touch with whoever it is that you're, you know, um, for whatever the topic is that you're trying to solve.
That's perfect. Perfect. So, it seems like all doing all of this outside of your own company has broadened your vision and also given you more insights into what other companies are trying to do. So, what do you think, construction or pre-construction is going to look like 10 years from now? Like, is there a trend that you see outside that you think is most likely going to happen and it's going to change the way we think about this industry right now?
Well, I guess with the specific focus on pre-con, I think a lot of these efforts can better merge together, not being done by one person. But I think uh, you don't. You're going to be able to do 10 times the amount of like work or projects or effort than you can today, simply because AI with take our platform for example. So in the Concentric platform, we have Amplify. Amplify does just that. It amplifies the power of the user with the agentic AI. That is what Amplify is. And I truly believe that, and we've seen this already. We started where that Stone Age that I referenced before, pen, paper, and Excel, that's to use those tools, it takes 10 people for maybe a mid-sized company to keep up with the demand of pre-con across all the projects and plates that they're spinning. Right now, with our platform, they can do that same work with maybe 5 or 6 people. So already you're ahead of the game by unlocking the bandwidth to the equivalent of 4 team members. Those team members are now freed up to take on more projects and do more work without obviously increasing the number of hours in a day that they have to work. But with I know, Sampati, you're going to be able to handle an entire pre-construction effort times 3 or 4 by yourself. You're literally going to have Amplify as a resource to you, which is going to be the same as having a team of 10 pre-construction managers or estimators at your fingertips, cranking out that work. Does that mean that the rest of the department goes away? Absolutely not. Everybody now is operating on a factor of 10. So your company can grow exponentially and take on all of that work that's coming, that's being driven by that population growth and the other dynamics that are, it's not just the US, it's worldwide.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a
That's
must, it's not a nice to have. If you don't advance, you're not going to be able to keep up with the volume and the opportunity out there. And I think it also speaks to the younger generations, the generations of folk that are coming into the industry. I mean, I know it firsthand. They look at Excel and they're like, really? That's what your most advanced tool is I got to monkey around with spreadsheets? No, thanks. I'm going to the other company down the street that's using Concentric because it's far more efficient. It's easy to use. It's cool, and it becomes a recruiting advantage. It becomes a retention advantage because if you're not advancing, the younger generations aren't going to stick around for a while. They've grown up, not me. You are that generation, Sapati. You've grown up with technology. You've grown up with smartphones and iPads and streaming, music, videos, everything kind of on demand like this. You're not going to have the patience to mess around with 40 different spreadsheets and a point solution here that doesn't talk to anything. No way. Too talented for that.
well, I really do agree with you on that. We need to keep moving forward to attract talent and, in general, build those efficiencies around our workflows. What's I guess I want to wrap this up with like, one question. Like, a lot of people will ask you, what's next for Concentric? But I guess I want to go back and ask you, like, what is it about your roots, like very early days of your family or, culture growing up, or even your early days in construction? What really shaped you and what still is a part of how you execute projects or how you lead today?
Mm, good question. I think clearly I grew up as an Army brat. So I got to, my father as an officer in the U.S. Army. At a very early age, I got to appreciate what good quality leadership, empathy and leading by example and all the things that good leaders do well. And uh, the great thing about that upbringing is you really appreciate the mission, right? It's all about you've got a group of people, a team, and you've got a mission that you need to accomplish, and you need leadership to have vision and be able to bring that team along to accomplish that mission together. And I think that throughout my entire life, sports was always obviously involved in sports growing up. That's what teams are all about. You're on a mission, you practice, you refine what you do, but you do it together, and the mission is to win. Um, uh, the same holds true in construction. Construction is very much like the military. If you think about it, you got a somewhat of a hierarchical organization of owner, GC delegates to the subcontractors. Everybody has their role to play, and the vision and the mission is to plan, but build this project by this time for this amount of money. And you got to, as a leader in the industry, in the industry, on a project, you have to guide a massive workforce. I had projects where, the entire workforce over time was probably 6 to 10,000 workers that had touched that job along the way on site. Never mind all of the manufacturers and everybody else that contribute the equipment and materials to the job. That's an incredible thing that you have to guide to hit a specific date and a specific cost target. Those same practices are, what drive and motivate me to be the best leader I can be at Concentric, which is I've built a world-class team, and it's the team together that's building an amazing platform, and it's a team that's supporting our customers for all of their needs with the white glove concierge level support that's there to just really help. And our customers' success is our success. And so, that just comes through our team from every angle. So, I guess that's what kind of how that's defined. The way I approach these things is just it's all about the team. It's a team sport, as they say.
And it's reflected very well from the way you approach problems, people, everything. I think you really lead by example. And I'm so happy that we could have this conversation. It's been truly enlightening. And I know this is not enough, so we'll do more of this. I will definitely get you back to talk more and discuss more. Also see what Concentric is doing again, because there will be more advancements and we would love to talk about those too. So thank you so much for coming in, talking to me, and giving us your precious time.
Oh, this was wonderful, Sampana. Thank you for thinking of me and having me. So, we definitely need to do this with some frequency, Sampana. This is a great thing that you're doing. Really trying to, be a thought leader and bring thought leadership to the industry. And I wish you success with the podcast.
Thank you, and talk soon.